Oh man, they're going a million miles a minute over here. So I'm trying to slow them down so I can spit it out. We were talking about perfection and how you've heard me say many times, like if you're aiming for perfection, which is simply your ideal version or some goal in your head, and you reach it, then you're dead, right? You've stopped evolving, you stopped growing, you stopped deciding, you stopped living. You're now dead, right? And yet, many people will get to that goal, that it's like their last goal or the end goal or whatever the case may be. And they do want to freeze frame it because in their head, in their mind, in their world, they've reached their version of perfection, right? Like they were reaching and aiming for something that doesn't exactly exist, but in their head and their beliefs and their understanding, this is good, this is right, this is perfect, this is whatever. And so they believe they've attained it at whatever, and then they're freeze-framed there. They're dead there. They're stuck there. They've stopped evolving. They've stopped growing. They've stopped changing. They've stopped choosing. They've stopped living. They are literally zombies. But what was interesting in addition to this, the next layer was they then become control freaks because they believe they must be that way now, because that's what they have believed and told themselves is the ideal. It is perfection. It is the right. It is the good. They then freak out because everything around them continues to live, to change, to evolve, to grow, to morph, and they can't handle it. They're like, what is happening? No, we reach perfection. Everything is to stop, dead in its tracks. And so they become these control freaks where they want to control everyone and everything in their environment. And they're like freaking out because you're continuously, it's like bursting their bubble, popping their illusion, as if perfection is a finite place, that it's some goal to attain, that it's some achievable, and it's not, because your beliefs and your life are forever changing. So you're ever changing your goals. So you're ever breaking through your limits, reaching goals and reaching for new ones past those limits. And it was just a very interesting scene because I was like, oh yeah, that actually is a good sum up of a lot of people I know who, they have very strict, stern beliefs in whatever arena, right? Whether it is, like some of them, it's an overarching life of every bucket in a certain perfection, role, focus, blah, blah, blah. Others, it's like, the perfect body, the perfect career, the perfect whatever the case is. But then they do so tightly want to grasp onto that of which they believe they've attained, that they keep themselves stuck and stagnant in that place, that position, that whatever, which then begins to add fear and fright. And this is why it gets ripped from them. That's why it's because it's the lesson for them to learn that there is no end goal, there is no perfection, there is no anything, right? Like it is always evolving, always changing, always growing, always morphing, forever, hopefully up-leveling. But in this scenario, you can hear where it wasn't that they were up-leveling, they were reaching and aiming for a goal, but it was with those current beliefs, which then they kept stuck and stagnant, even though they busted up against the end, right? It's like, okay, so the end, you've reached that goal, you've attained what you claim to be perfection. So do you die off and stay stuck and stagnant and trying to control everything around you to remain the same? Or do you let it all go? Do you release it all? Do you allow for now new dreams, new goals, new whatever, so you can flow right on through past what you believed at that point when you set that goal? You believed that was the end all and be all. And you got to the end all and be all and you're like, there's more, right? You want to have, there's more. That's exciting. Let's keep going, because otherwise we're like, fuck, this is it. And you're just keeping yourself stuck and stagnant. You're just keeping yourself from evolving and changing and growing. And we're always doing this, whether we're, The reason I say recognize it or not is because if you start to recognize it, if you start to see yourself, if you start to know your patterns, understand yourself, what you're doing, what you're thinking, what you're believing and why, and so forth and so on, you can then take charge. You can take the reins. You can start consciously choosing and deciding. Otherwise, you do start to devolve, decay, get old, angry, cranky, stuck, stagnant. They're just showing somebody turning brittle, bitter, I guess. They're just brittle. They're like crumbling because although they could be showing like that's also kind of what happens when you go through a tower, or like when what you once knew no longer exists, which I guess is the same idea. It's like once you thought that was perfection and you reach there and that no longer forms your definition of perfection. So now you have a new goal to attain or a new thing to reach for, which can be really exciting and or scary, fracturing, horrifying, right? Depending on what angle you're seeing it from, how big of a understanding you have around it, how big of an identity shift, how big of a many things can determine, I guess, our reaction or behavior or response to that awakening, that awareness, that understanding, that new profound knowledge, that new depth within yourself. And so that will also determine whether you it's like continue to be happy, right? It's whether you continue to thrive and go with that flow and that excitement and see it from that viewpoint of excitement, or if you are devastated by it and can't see it from the higher vantage point and can't see it's the solution. You're only looking at the problem. And we've all been there, but it's like, again, the more you get familiar with these patterns within yourself, because we're all doing them, but when you can recognize them in real time, like, oh my God, I'm totally fixated on the problem. I'm totally upset. And it's okay too. Like, it's like, I am. And I actually, if I want to cry this out, I want to release this, I want to feel this so I can release this, so I can understand it. And then you relax and move along and you float up. But in other words, I'm not suggesting you don't give yourself the space and grace to do what you need to do to process whatever you need to process. I'm just suggesting that the more you're aware that you're processing, the more that you're aware of what you're doing, the more that you're aware of what's occurring and telling yourself the truth, not mishinges, not lies, not insisting that it can't change, keeping yourself stuck and stagnant, keeping yourself upset and worried, all these things, then the happier you are, the more you can enjoy life, the more life is working with you, for you, versus your illusion that it's against you or harming you or all these things. Yeah, I was going to say, because you've heard this, life can be difficult, it can be challenging. And it's like, well, that is true at times. And at the same time, that depends on how you even see that word, right? Like challenging is a good thing, right? We want to be challenged. We want to solve puzzles. We want to feel proud of ourselves. We want to accomplish things. If everything were easy peasy floating on by, well, you know what happens with that? Because I'm sure there's times in your life where you've had that. I know I have, where it's just beautiful, beautiful. But it's almost, and this is funny, but it's true, it's almost like when it's that easy all the time, one, we stop appreciating. We really do. Hence, we've had that debate many a times, why we need the dark, why we need the bad, why we need whatever. But nonetheless, when it's for an extended amount of time where you have no new goals, you have no new challenges, you have no new difficulty, you have no new hurdle to accomplish, you have no new whatever, not only is it boring, it's not, yes, we know all that, but it's also when you do have the slightest bump, or you do have challenges, or you do have things to overcome, or difficulties, they can seem tremendously more difficult or bigger or more dramatic than they actually are, because you're so familiar with the other way. So it's also this idea that people want to live in that balance for that understanding. It's not that they're preventing themselves from bliss. No, they're always aiming for bliss, but they're also always working on a larger goal that is keeping them challenged and grounded. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm not saying don't always float in bliss and look for, no. I'm saying float in that bliss, but aware that you still want to be living and thriving and growing, which means you still do need goals and challenges, right? We still do need things that are challenging for us, whatever word works for you, because I know sometimes I'll say difficult, but I also say that kind of comically, and I do mean it more of challenging, but I think others sometimes see that as a very negative. So again, just hopefully you can hear through all that and use whatever word works for you. You're aiming for something, and you want to always be aiming for something, because otherwise we get bored, we get stagnant, we get, and I was just say uninspired, because I know I've been like that. It's like you're looking for that challenge, you're looking for that muse. The reason I say muse or looking for that challenge is because it's also, it's like you want the challenge to be something that you desire. Right? Like if you don't desire it, you're not amused by it, you're not excited or delighted by it, then you won't continue to go for it. Do you know what I mean? Like I could come up right now with a dozen things that I would like to aim for, but I've been aiming for those dozen things for a long time because I don't care about them that much. I'd like to do them if I get around to them, but if I never get around to them, I don't really care. So we don't want that. We actually want something that we really want, right? And so that is the thing that you won't stop going for, right? Like, and for me, if you've been listening, for me, it has been getting back to me, getting back to feeling good, being happy, like uncovering all these lies and ties and confusion and delusion and heaviness, stuckness, denseness, worry, upset, like all this stuff. It's like I needed to get just to ground zero, right? And so we all have, anyway, hopefully you can hear that. The imagery that they had started off was when we were talking about perfectionism and then you're dead. And then they showed all these living people that do look dead, right? It's like they have stopped living. They had reached a said goal and never set new goals. And they got into the job or position or school of thinking of now nothing can change. I need to control everything outside of me, which is impossible to do. So I will live in furiousness, anger, frustration, attempting to control anyone and everything outside of me in order to attain what once was and has been long gone, but I'm stuck and stagnant back there trying to get back to where, and it's like, oh God, right? And you see this, you see people doing this. And that's like a sum up of what's really happening. They might not even realize it. I think a lot of them don't realize it. They don't realize what they're telling themselves. That simple example I've used before, it's like they were some like rock star in their 20s or some major football star or some athlete. And then now they're in their 60s, 70s, 80s, still hanging on to back then. That was the only time it was good in their life. And they're still trying to get back there. Well, you're never going to get back there. So why don't you set yourself some new sights, right? Like new goals, new excitement, start living, right? But they don't. People end up dying back then and trying to get back to back then, which is not possible to do. Okay, all right. Thanks so much for tuning in and listening. You can now purchase an audio journey with me using the link below.